So we're leaving in about 6 weeks on a 4.5 month trip, and there's a few maintenance issues I want to tidy up.
Yeah, what did you just do? Why did you do that anyways? People won't want to watch this. They'll think you're a silly goose.
That's not very nice. Trying to stop stones coming up in between the stone stomper and the tray, but of course, it's never that simple. Anything we can do before we leave to minimise damage and make your trip a bit easier is definitely worthwhile. So this is the Thirsty Nomad. Without sounding like it's a real gimmick, that is really good. Probably jumping the gun a little bit here by starting to pack. I know a lot of yous out there will go, oh shit, someone might steal it, but look, I'll cross that bridge if it ever happens. Please don't steal it. I had a few comments about the same coloured shirt over and over again, and also the fact I can't grow a beard. I know, I'm 37, I'll get there one day. So we've got the bearings out, but who does the washing of the bearings?
No.
No?
No.
Oh,
I try not to.
So does that mean I have to do it?
You will have to do it, Adam. Yeah, is that alright?
Awesome. And hopefully it's cheaper. I think you charge extra when people watch that.
Yeah, we usually do, mate. It's double rate because you're in the workshop.
Fantastic.
And because you're assisting, we go up from there.
Craft beer or real beer? Thank God. Yeah. We're good. We can go now. Cheers. Righto guys, I'm here with Ryan from LAURIETON Motors and Mechanical, and he's been kind enough to let us bring our cameras in, and we're going to film how to do the wheel bearings on a 79 series Land Cruiser. Seems quite a simple job, but just to see how the professionals do it, I think it'll be quite valuable for myself plus you guys. So thanks for letting us bring the cameras in, mate. I really appreciate it. We'll get the wheel bearings done. Ryan's going to talk us through that full process. Once we got that done, we'll go over the vehicle, and he's going to give us an insight into what to look out for a pre-trip checks. Any other little nuggets you can give us to, you know, stupid nuggets. You like that? Any other little bits of information that you can give us, mate, we'd be happy to hear. Yep. So just give us a little bit of background. How long have you been here for now, mate?
Yeah, mate, 11 years now. 11
years, yeah, right.
Did my apprenticeship and bought into the business, and just recently bought out my business partner. So yeah, going on strong for 11 years. So
like one thing that stands out to me in this workshop is you seem to have like some really nice new equipment. Talk us through some of the equipment that you have that, you know, really sets you apart from some other guys.
Recently got all these modules at the back of the wall here. Yep. Each of the technicians that we've got here has their own workshop station. Basically they've got their own laptop. Information is key these days, so it needs to be on hand. It needs to be easy. Not just us at home that use Dr. Google? No, being able to have the guys have their own stations, laptops, all that on hand. They're at the job, there it is, their tools are there.
Keep whipping them.
Yeah.
We'll get into these wheel bearings, and then we'll put the big girl up on the hoist and see if there's any paint under there from Toyota. I doubt there will be. And Ryan's going to go through some things to look out for before you go on that big trip. Things you can ask your mechanic to do if you're not local to the area. If you are local to the area, come down and see the guys, they'll sort you out. Like I said, they've owner operated, still on the tools himself. Yep. It's good to see. So let's get into it.
All right, no dramas.
Rightio, so the infamous auto locking hub. These are the parts that fail if you don't lock them in before you go hardcore four driving, and they try to lock in under power and they explode. So that comes off pretty easy, that's self-explanatory, a few Allen keys. So what's next, Ryan?
Yeah, so basically once you've got the bolts out of the locking hub, pull away the brake caliper. Yep. Cable tie or a little bit of wire, something like that, just to take the weight and just to hang it, so it's just not all the weight on that flex line of the brake.
Yeah, no worries. Righto, so it's just a circlip holding in the auto locking mechanism?
That's right. This is the part that's locking this shaft to this outer rotor.
So this is probably a good one if you've busted something out on the track. A good one for your spares kit and mine is a pair of circlip pliers, because that would be nearly impossible without them.
Absolutely. absolutely. Yeah, that's a must.
So without circlip pliers, you'd be struggling to get that off, I would imagine.
Can't do it with my hand, so it will be with a socket. You can see it's not overly tight.
Is that normally loose enough that you wouldn't need a special tool out on the track?
You could jar that with a punch, but
To get you out of trouble,
to get you out of trouble. Outer bearing will come out.
And
Just
hub off.
usually when you pull that off, that'll slide and fall in dirt.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want out on the track.
So you want to just make sure that you've got a rag or something in front when you're pulling that off.
Yep.
Last thing you want to do is get dirt all through the bearing and more cleaning, trying to wash that out.
So we've got the bearings out, but who does the washing of the bearings? Well, surely the owner doesn't.
No,
No?
no.
Oh,
I try not to.
So does that mean I have to do it?
You will have to do it, Adam.
Awesome.
Yeah, is that all right?
Awesome. And hopefully it's cheaper. So this has got 25,000 Ks on it. What's your recommendation? Replace them without looking at them, or re-grease them and only replace them if they're had it?
I would. 25 Ks, I wouldn't be probably doing bearings.
Yep.
I'd be cleaning, inspecting,
Yep.
and then good quality grease.
Yep.
Go again.
There's not many left on the road that have that style of full floating bearing anymore, is there?
Not a lot. D-Max.
Yes.
They're and getting back to Isuzu. I think they're 40 every 40 with the
Yep.
the bearings and stuff.
Yep.
But no, a lot of the cars now are a fully sealed unit.
Righto, rear hub. So
Rehab.
brake caliper off again.
Brake caliper off again. Once the caliper's off, a good idea is to back off the handbrake shoes.
Yeah,
Which-
that one that doesn't work.
The one that doesn't work.
There you
So back it off. You'll find that there might be a bit of dirt or grit or a little bit of a lip that's happened.
Yep.
And if you start whacking it, you'll probably be fighting the shoes and they'll be stuck with it. So just back it off.
So how do you do that, mate?
Through this, you've got a little grub hole here with a little grommet.
Yep.
So just pop that off. You'll find that you'll go the wrong way, probably 9 times out of 10 first.
And it'll get tighter.
It'll get tighter, and then you'll have to just do everything backwards from there.
Once you got the adjuster backed off, what's the next move then, mate?
All right, so we need to take these 14mm nuts off.
Yep.
In behind there will be a spring washer.
Yep.
And then there's like a split cone.
Yes.
Split cone we'll focus on once I get these off.
Yep.
Because
There's a trick to get
there
them
is a
out.
trick to get them out.
Yep.
Just need a 14mm socket.
This one?
No.
Not that one? Oh.
Excellent. Thank
Righto.
you.
I think you charge extra when people watch that.
Yeah, we usually do, mate. Yeah.
So how much am I up to now?
It's double rate because you're in the workshop.
Fantastic.
To start with, and then because you're assisting, we go up from there.
But I'll probably make at least $2 off this video if I get 40,000 views. So it'll be all worth it.
So now we've got the nuts, the spring washers off. We've got these split cones. They'll be tight.
Yep.
So put the nuts on.
So you put the nut on there to just protect the thread, is that right?
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
so we're just doing it just to protect the thread.
And what kind of drift and hammer do you use when you're doing this sort of work?
Copper.
Yeah, right.
Just a softer metal.
Yes, okay.
Rather than steel.
Yep.
Just because we're all we're looking for is more of a shock.
Yep.
To just shock that cone out. We're not trying to bash it, and with a steel drift you are going to damage a mushroom, something like that.
Yeah, righto. So these are the little split cones that Ryan just shocked out. They can be a real pain to get out if you don't know what you're doing. So that's how you do it with a brass drift, and we'll move along. Rightio, so out on the track, I noticed you're going to use puller bolts. Is that a good technical term?
Puller bolts?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I reckon.
Yeah.
Obviously, people aren't going to have those in their toolkit. This is how you do it properly without damaging things, I'd imagine.
Yep.
How else would you get it out, mate?
Because they're dowelled, you could try getting in there with some sort of taper, chisel or screwdriver.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to damage something doing it that way.
Yep.
You're just trying to lever it off these 2 pins. I mean, it is just a standard 6mm bolt, so
Yeah.
a couple of them.
True.
You know, it's not too hard just to throw a couple of bolts in.
So that's one of those things you may have it in your kit without even knowing, and that's how you do it properly. Righto, so that nut retains the hub with a couple of locking screws.
Yep.
There's no real trick to getting that out, is there?
No, it's just good quality screwdriver tip. And like you saw, that was I could just undo that with my hand.
Yep.
Backed off that adjuster. Again, you don't want that front bearing falling in the dirt.
Alright, so wash them up and do it all in reverse.
Yep, that's it.
Cheers. Righto, time to re-grease, mate.
Yep. So once they're nice and clean, you've cleaned them all up. Now obviously a lot of people out there wouldn't have a bearing packer on hand, especially when they're on the road. So it'd be just manually doing it with your hand and making sure that you're getting the grease all the way through the needles. So just put a lump of grease on your palm.
Yep.
And it's about just tapping it until, and it's about just walking it around.
Yep.
It is obviously time saving if you have a bearing packer.
Yep.
But it's really important to make sure that's probably a better image.
Yep.
It's coming up through those needles. It's all about lubrication. Alright. I would be using a bearing packer right now, but our apprentice broke ours just the other day.
That's what apprentices are good for.
So
if you're watching this, apprentice, you got to go and buy a new bearing packer.
he's over in Sweden at the moment.
Or he won't care then, will he?
Yeah, so
Righto. Repeat steps 1 through 8, and we'll put it all back together, eh?
Yep, done.
So is this one of those things where you can't have too much grease, or can you have too much grease?
Yeah, too much grease, definitely. So about half to 3/4 of the hub full of grease.
Yep. And what's the reason for that?
Well, if you have too much grease, you'll get churning.
Yep.
And it'll actually create extra friction.
Yeah. Right.
Too much heat. So you actually can overdo it with grease.
Yeah, there you go. I never thought you'd be able to have too much grease.
Yeah.
Righto, so what's the key with getting the correct tension on the bearings? Is this one of those experience things, or do you measure it?
Yeah, I will with a new bearing.
Yeah, so being that these have been used before.
So yeah, probably not as tight as what I'd normally do with a brand new one. But I want to see that it's free turning and just back it off just a little bit.
Righto, so we nearly got the rear back together. Pretty much just a reversal of how we pulled it apart. Anything special to look out for when you put it back together, mate?
Obviously you've got grease and stuff going on, so you just want to make sure you're using a solvent or something just to make sure that surface is nice and clean.
Yep. Righto, so we'll go and put the front back together. Righto, mate, other than working in reverse, is there any real trick in the front end to getting it back together?
Yeah, you just got to watch out for this locking mechanism with these auto lock hubs. This section here, if you get it in the wrong spot, obviously you won't be able to get it home, and if you're using the bolts to pull it home, you're going to break something.
Yep.
So just making sure that this is lined up. What looks to be a circular thing behind here, it just needs to be opposite this half moon.
So it really should just go home by hand. It
Yes,
shouldn't need to be forced
it shouldn't be
in.
forced in. If you're having to try and use some bolts and it's feeling tighter than normal, stop.
Yep.
Because you'll break something. I can come down a bit.
Just come down a little bit. Look like Dickie Knee. Right, so we finished the wheel bearings up. Good opportunity while it's on the hoist. We'll jump under and have a look. And just run us through, if you're going on a big trip and a bit of trip prep, what do you look for and what should people be asking their workshop to do for them, mate, you reckon?
Yeah, absolutely. What we would do if someone was going on a big trip like yourself is going over all the chassis bolts, suspension bolts, any of the major bolts, and just making sure that they're all nice and tight.
It sounds simple, I suppose, but it probably gets missed.
It does. Some manufacturers will actually list it in their scheduled servicing.
Yeah, right.
To actually check certain bolts.
And I mean, how often would that really get done?
Exactly. Yeah, it's an overlook. Something like this is a good opportunity. Yeah, you're going out, you're going to be going over the roughest terrain in the world, pretty much.
Yep.
So let's go over all the bolts, make sure that they're all nice and tight.
So when we come into the workshop, I commented on how nice the equipment is in this workshop. It really stood out to me. One thing I did notice is you have a really good wheel alignment machine. And I mean, that would be one thing. Tyres are expensive, so a good wheel alignment would be important if you're doing
absolutely.
some Ks.
Getting that wheel alignment done before. Flipping tyres, especially big all-terrain tyres or mud-terrain tyres. Flipping the tyres on the actual rim.
Yep.
You will get a bit of heel and toe wear.
Yep.
Which is sort of every second lug will wear different, just how they walk.
Yep.
Just because of the large tread wear that they've got. So constantly rotating, flipping them on the rims, getting the best out of your tyre life.
Yeah, for sure, because they're not cheap.
Yeah.
So the Cruiser's pretty new, mate, but if this was an older car, what are some of the things you'd look out for before you left on a bigger trip?
So definitely be checking drive belts, the pulleys, so simple things like that. Start looking at batteries. How old is it? Should I do it before a trip? Suspension bushes, all of that, they start to fatigue, they get soft as well, which all leads to things coming loose.
And if you're going to do a big adventure, and you want to get off the beaten track, that's when they'll fail.
Absolutely.
And you'll notice it more. All right, so to wrap it up, what's probably one of the most important things, new, old, doesn't matter, what's one of the key things to do before you leave on a trip?
Yeah, the biggest thing is not leaving it to the last minute.
Yeah, right.
People turn up, and it could be even just going to a Sydney trip, 4 hours down the road, they want their coolant flush.
Yep.
We often say, let's do it when you come back.
Yep.
Especially on an older car, you start disturbing, you're doing a coolant flush, you start disturbing things inside, and you can create some leaks.
So you can see things happen that you weren't expecting.
Yeah. So if you're going to be doing a trip and you know you're doing a trip, do it months before. Don't take off the next day.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you want to do, a couple of 1,000 Ks, everything settled, retighten everything, check your wheel alignment again, check your hoses, hot, cold, it's got up to temperature. That's when things swell and reseat and stuff like that. So leaving it to the last minute is probably the worst mistake you can make.
It's a really good point. And when I said to Ryan about doing a few things on the ute, like they've done a few other things for me with servicing and whatnot, and I said I want the wheel bearings done before I go. He did mention that, make sure it's in. I've got about a month before I leave. So if we had to pull one of those bearings out and it was full of mud and water, which I really didn't think it would be, but you just don't know. And if it was a week before I left and it's stuck on the hoist, you don't want to do that. So it is a really good point, mate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Righto, let's get it off the hoist and it's time for a beer.
Yep, excellent.
Thanks, lad.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Righto, wheel bearings are done. Thanks, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Appreciate the help. Anyway, well, we've got two mechanics standing here. Let's ask them a few questions that might help you at home, or I'm just curious anyway. So, if you had to go and buy a four-wheel drive tomorrow, what would you buy?
Definitely Toyota.
Well, that's settled, that's easy. What's the last car on earth you'd buy? 4x4 related.
4x4, I would probably stick away from anything European.
Yeah, definitely.
There you go, straight from the horse's mouth. Do not buy a European car. Do you know anyone that's got a European 4x4?
Not offhand, no.
Oh, yeah. That's good to know.
If you want a long weekend away, buy a Jeep.
Well, that'll get heaps of haters going. The other one I had that would maybe help you guys out is if you got a shed at home, you got a bit of stuff in the shed, so you do a little bit on your car. What's one of the handiest tools you've come across lately and would be really good for the home handyman?
Oh, single tool?
Yep.
A hammer.
I was going to say shifter, but that's hammer's one better.
Surely give me
Shifter
some.
you can use. Shifter you could use as a hammer.
Oh, that's great. A hammer. I'm pretty sure they've already got a hammer.
Yeah. Jeez, I don't know. You put me on the spot though.
Multimeter.
Well, I think Tim touched on that before with a multimeter.
Multimeter?
Yeah.
Yeah. Seems simple, but I suppose you can diagnose a lot with a multimeter.
If you can work your way around a bit of diagnostic stuff,
Yep.
voltages.
Yep. Home handyman, go and grab a multimeter. Super handy.
Yeah.
Real beer or craft beer?
Ooh, it's craft beer for me.
Can you call this real beer, but we drink it?
Woo, no, you're supposed to be on my side. This has got to be. I didn't know. I thought maybe. I'm like, oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Right, let's do it again. Craft beer or real beer?
Anything cold for me, mate?
No. Craft beer or real beer?
I'm gonna go craft. Yeah.
Real. Thank God.
Yeah.
We're good. We can go now. Cheers, buddy. Right, I really appreciate you guys letting me bring the cameras in. We've had a bit of fun doing this, and I hope you guys have learnt something. So don't forget, guys, only live once. Get out there and enjoy it.
Cheers.
Cheers.